In an isolated, fenced-off portion of Wyoming farmland, a group of armed SCP Foundation agents get ready to face off against an onslaught. A motion detector let them know that they were needed. Something had come out of the door. As the team prepares to strike, one of them clutches his Star of David necklace. Another one meditates. Another reads aloud from his Bible. "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." This is a necessary step to the process. Every member of Mobile Task Force Chi-13 are devoutly religious, and they have to be. The enemy they're up against is nothing short of demonic. The door to the house opens, but the team doesn't enter. Beyond the door, where there should be a regular living room, is nothing but darkness. A darkness deeper than night, blacker than terror itself. Not darkness as absence of light, but darkness as a tangible solid. Suddenly, a shadow moves. A humanoid creature, the same inky black as the void, comes rushing out towards the agents. Then another one. These living shadows have no discernible facial features, nothing that would identify them as angry or hateful to their prey, but that doesn't mean they're harmless. The agents train their guns on the creatures, firing out specially made silver bullets at them. A few go down, dissolving into a sulfur-scented dust as they do, but they're fast, extremely so. One of them leaps onto a team member, and before he can fire, it plunges its hand down into his chest. The man screams, but there's no blood. Even though he's decked out in tactical armor, the creature is able to phase its arm right through him, like a ghost through a wall. When it pulls its arm back, it has the man's heart in its hand. There's not even a mark left behind. The other team members shoot at the creature, but it retreats back into the darkness. When the figure disappears, the door slams behind it, and the Mobile Task Force is left to make an incident report and pick up the pieces. They all know it'll only be a matter of time until they're called on again. But I'm calling you in right now. That's right, you, watching this video. Using my anomalous surveillance technology, I can see that despite watching my videos, you're not subscribed. I recommend that you rectify that immediately, or you might never have the kind of knowledge that would save you from a deadly anomaly like SCP-1983. The Foundation was alerted to SCP-1893's presence by a spate of missing persons and cattle mutilations in the region. Rumors were spreading of a certain farmhouse that had been the site of a satanic ritual, and that demonic forces had to have been behind the strange happenings. The locus of the anomaly is the front door and the living room behind it. The back door is unaffected, but any attempts to enter the living room will be unsuccessful. Researchers have tried to get into the room via doors, windows, and even cutting holes in the wall itself. But upon walking through, they find themselves inexplicably in a different, random room of the house. Seemingly the only way to access the anomaly is through the front door. But as you've probably figured out by now, that door doesn't lead to the living room either. Instead, it leads somewhere else. The first time a task force was sent into that farmhouse, they didn't come back out. The door opened, then once the team was through, it closed. A second team was sent in after them, and they never came back either. That was before they knew that the only way to kill the things was a silver bullet fired while offering prayer. The second time, the door didn't close on its own either. Not until Agent Morris entered the doorway himself. He was never seen again. The farm was locked down, and the people of the surrounding area were given a cover story about the land now being a chemical plant. As you can see, containing this particular anomaly wasn't easy. The Foundation's top priority at this point was to figure out exactly where this door led, and what exactly these shadowy creatures were doing with the hearts they collected. Only when we fully understood this entity could we truly put an end to its attacks. However, external readings could only show us that there was an anomaly present. It couldn't give us anything specific. And the void in the farmhouse was so dark that it was impossible to get a visual beyond the doorway. We eventually gained more complete information on the inside of the anomaly courtesy of a first-hand account written by one of the MTF Chi-13 agents whose body was found inside the house. I'm going to save the details of how his body was recovered for later. What follows is a summary of Document 1983-15. The document provides a summary of all known information about SCP-1983, albeit in a frantic and profanity-ridden tone, written by Agent Barkley, presumably minutes before his demise. He breezes through the house's history, the door's properties, and the method of killing the entities that come out of the door. Then he starts getting into details the Foundation weren't previously privy to. Barkley describes himself as having once been a man who believed in God, but that faith being shaken by what he saw. After entering the anomaly, Barkley's team are attacked by more shadow figures. One of them manages to kill Agent O'Brien and take his heart, but Barkley notices that the creatures are weaker in darkness. To him, this makes sense. Shadows have stronger outlines when there's light around them. They're less solid when not contrasted to their surroundings. Barkley and his men try the door, but it doesn't open back into the front room of the house anymore. Instead, it opens into a strange, twisted landscape. Agent Jones tries to escape anyway, but the further he gets from the house, the more he starts to melt, becoming formless, just like the shadow beings inside the house. The remaining agents start exploring the house. 3 more agents have their hearts taken by the shadow agents when they stand too close to the light. Barkley and the rest stay in the shadows from then on. But even with minimal light, they're able to get a picture of where they are. Barkley describes it as not just the farmhouse, but a combination of a dozen other places. Parts of an apartment, a shopping mall, even a high school that looks strangely familiar. Barkley describes the appearance of these places as stolen, and posits that this is some kind of nest made from places that the anomaly has manifested in before. The farmhouse is seemingly only the most recent of these anomalous events. The place is also littered with black spots, made of the same shadow as the creatures. Agent Torres tries to touch one. Some unseen force pulls him through, and he never comes back out. Navigating the space becomes a dangerous game of never stepping into the light, while also never stepping on any patches of darkness that look too dark. Agent Denning finds himself unable to manage this balance, and in the process of avoiding a black spot, strays into a beam of light. A shadow creature pounces and takes his heart. Barkley and the rest of the team decide to follow it. After all, one of the big questions they've been brought here to answer is what exactly the shadow creatures are doing with the hearts they collect. Carefully, and with great difficulty, the team follows the shadow to the center of the metaphorical labyrinth. What they find is something that should be impossible. In a room lit by hundreds of stolen lamps and candles is a pile of hearts. The shadow creature throws Denning's heart on top, and it miraculously begins to beat again. All of the hearts in the pile are still beating. Suddenly, it rips in half, and a new shadow creature climbs out. This is the point where Barkley runs away. He ends his report by saying he has a few bullets left in his gun and urging whoever finds his corpse to do whatever they can to destroy the nest. Which brings us to how we were able to recover Barkley's corpse and the corpses of the rest of his team. On May 23, 1989, D-Class 14134 was brought to the house by MTF Chi-13. He was given a closed-circuit camera tethered to a computer monitor by a 25-meter cord. His mission? Document as much as he could of what was on the other side, and if possible, come back through alive. The D-Class walked through the door, after which point the feed was only live for a short period of time. The image on the monitor glitched, then went black. The team barely had time to check the connection when the cord went taut, then snapped. Nobody knew what was happening. The team waited for hours, wondering what would happen next. Suddenly, something happened that nobody could have expected. Readings indicated that the anomaly on the other side of the door had disappeared. Beyond the doorway, instead of solid black, was now the rest of the farmhouse. The agents were able to go through the door and recover the desiccated remains of both previous assault teams. They were all at a loss for words. What could have happened that neutralized an anomaly so completely? The answer is that the D-Class they sent in was able to make an unbelievable sacrifice, becoming one of only 2 D-Class personnel awarded the Foundation Star. D-14134 was born Jackson Parker in inner-city Detroit in 1934. His civilian life was difficult, to say the least. In addition to the struggles of life as a black man in the early 20th century, he was also enlisted in the Vietnam War and managed to survive multiple tours. Through all of life's struggles, though, Parker was kept afloat by an unshakable faith in God. He had grown up in the church, and his faith still gave him a strong sense of pride and community as an adult. But even though he found some support in his religious community, like many veterans, he still struggled to readjust to life at home when the war was over. In 1976, just a year after America pulled out of the war, Parker had an altercation with a police officer in his home city that turned deadly. When the cop went to draw his weapon, Parker's combat instincts kicked in, and he shot the officer dead. Though he argued it was self-defense, the judge didn't see it that way, and he received a death sentence with an execution scheduled for May 19, 1979. Given his history as a soldier, Parker made a natural choice for a Foundation D class. Specifically, he was the perfect choice for a manned mission into the anomaly beyond the door of SCP-1983. I can't speak for Mr. Parker's thoughts at the time, but it's easy to imagine that being tethered and having a camera strapped to him before being sent through the door reminded him of being deployed across enemy lines by helicopter during the war. It's entirely possible that his experiences in Vietnam had also made him uniquely prepared for the hostile environment on the other side. He had experience surviving against an enemy who can blend seamlessly into their surroundings. He'd lost enough comrades to landmines and booby traps that he instinctively knew never to step on a patch of floor that looked suspiciously different from its surroundings. It's then presumed that Parker found the body of Agent Barkley and was able to read the note as well as take his gun with the last few bullets left in it. He was now armed with a gun and with the knowledge required to make his way to the center of the anomaly. He also knew from Barkley's statement that if the pile of hearts wasn't destroyed, the anomaly could manifest anywhere, and countless lives would be at stake. He saw the nest and watched the shadow creatures as they hatched more of themselves from the pile of squirming, beating hearts. Unlike Barkley, though, Parker's faith was unshakable. He knew that everything in his life, even his incarceration, had been leading up to this moment. The shadow creatures ran at him, but he was able to dispatch them easily, each one exploding into sulfur dust as he shot them with Barkley's silver bullets. With the creatures taken care of, the final thing he had to do was take out the nest. He unloaded the rest of the bullets into the pile of hearts. The whole time, he held in his mind the belief that he was going to kill this thing and make it out of the anomaly alive. And as we know, everything within SCP-1983 responds to strong beliefs. As it turns out, that doesn't just mean religious beliefs, though they certainly help. In this instance, it was Parker's belief in himself that saved him that day. He refused to let himself be killed here after surviving so many hardships already. So it's entirely because of Jackson Parker's strength and bravery that the anomaly disappeared entirely, and the farmhouse returned to normal. Foundation agents were finally able to open the door to the house and enter the living room. The only signs that it had ever been anything but a normal farmhouse were the desiccated bodies of the previous MTF Chi-13 agents, including Agent Barkley. Though notably, the body of Jackson Parker was not among them. Officially, he's still considered dead by the Foundation, and his Foundation Star Award was given posthumously. However, given that Barkley's report indicates there may have been other doors leading to other buildings all over the world, it's possible that Parker was able to get through one of them before the anomaly completely collapsed. Whatever the truth is, finding out what became of him is not a high priority for the Foundation. If he's still alive out there, I personally think that his actions have earned him the reward of a quiet life. Sometimes, even dark stories can have a happy ending, and if you disagree, I'd simply advise you to, well, have a heart. Are you fascinated by cases of horrifying anomalies hiding inside what seem to be normal buildings? Then I highly recommend you watch the video file on Man-Eating Building, SCP-1051, Nevadan Extraterrestrial, providing you want to stay alive out there.